16?
Probably, just for the simple fact of 2.5 million is just over 5% of our total asset base. So if we had a major event, we don't have good enough coverage there, so it'd be nice if we could get it a little bit higher percentage of recovery on a major
What's the
event.
threshold you need to get to, Bart, to figure out if you got enough coverage in there?
We haven't really set one. I'd probably look to the board, maybe the audit committee to give us a percentage that they would feel comfortable with. My attitude is if we have that big of an event, good luck finding the resources and the equipment here locally to even restore it. So I think if we was up closer to 3.5, maybe 4 million, I think that I would feel more comfortable that we have enough set and buy. But it's hard to set $2 million more than what we got here, $1.5 million more, when you know you got a $10 million substation and transmission line project coming down the pipe. You know, it's hard to really sit on that stuff, so I just look at 2.5 million and I think we could probably swallow that pretty quickly if we had a very bad ice and windstorm blow through here or something like that. We could knock down a lot of poles pretty quick, and by the time you replace them and the crews in and out to fix it and fix the issues that come up, you may swallow that. So I think if you had another $1 million in there, you would probably feel a little more comfortable. But that's just Bart Miller 101.
We still have board authorization to continue depositing money into there. Last year we had reached the cap of what the board had given us freedom to deposit in the PTIF, and so the board raised that up last year. So if we do have money available, we will deposit it. So the room is there.
All right, so down on the safety and utility, we're still as a utility going for recognition of being a safe, reliable provider. The RP3 award was awarded this year. It's something that we submit on every other year, so we won't have any submissions this year, but we'll still be working in accordance so that we can submit in 2017 to meet the requirements. We still do get recognized for our safety, and we've got another year without any lost time incidents, so it's something to be commended, so we'll continue to march that way. As such, we have built into the budget a safety incentive payout for all employees. You get a nominal amount for a safe performance throughout the year and accomplishing monthly safety meeting attendance and a series of online safety training courses. So that's built into the budget. In the past, our clothing allowance has been built in as a clothing allowance, but we're rolling those funds into our personal protective equipment budget category, and we'll be setting up a new system. And in the past, we've just reimbursed employees. So they've come in and presented the receipts or the amount that they spent, and we've reimbursed them to a limit on the year. Going forward, we'll actually front load a service, an online service that only offers FR rated clothing. FR, for those of you who don't quite know, it's a fire rated type of clothing that's to help protect the employee against arc flashes and other dangerous experiences they have when working close to high voltage lines. So we'll put the money in this account, and then throughout the year, the account is employee specific. They can go and purchase whatever items they deem necessary, but they'll all meet the appropriate OSHA FR requirements. Our current program has us regulating that, which may or may not be as successful as this other program would. So that's why we've gone that way. It'll also ensure sure that all our employees are wearing our logo and our brand, so that people in the community know that these are Heber Light Power employees and that they're properly geared.
What specifically is a craft employee?
Any individual who's working like an electrician or
Is that
a
one?
lineman or.
Okay, not the office person.
No.
Okay.
I'm a crafty individual, but I'm not a crafty employee, so.
You want to see
Unless
things in
you're,
a better
unless you're
light,
doing
too.
pipe work.
Yeah. So, and then the last item in here is on our energy supply side. Our budget's set up to kind of manage the generation portfolio and the risk management policy. So whatever the board does to that policy will dictate this, how we budget for it. So, any questions?
I go back to the benefits thing for a minute.
Yep.
How much would it cost us if we stayed at 90-10 instead of 80-20?
9%.
9%.
Well, I know, but how much is that?
We pay. We pay $34,000 a month. I think it's 34 a month to be on the 90-10 that we're in now. So it'd run us up closer to 38 roughly. So we're looking at about $50,000 increase.
Yeah, I, with the 90/10, I think when we were looking at it, if we didn't make any change at all, and we just with the 9%, I think it was about a $60,000 or $65,000 hit to the budget overall.
Over the year?
Over the year,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not the month.
yeah, without making any change.
Part of that is because the in lieu of jumps up with the
Yeah.
increased premium too.
And what do you say we're paying 100% of?
We pay 100% of the premium,
Medical
Premium,
down.
yeah.
But then the 80/20 is just the,
so the employee doesn't see any hit to their paycheck.
That's what I'm,
yeah,
that was my question. Okay.
So
What
we're
they,
good there.
what they see is a hit at the doctor's office when they,
They pay 20% of the
which
visit
is
instead of
pretty
10.
average. Most of us do
It's-
80/20s.
yeah.
That's pretty
Or
average.
not
Pretty average.
80/20, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
But we pay part of that coverage too.
yeah, you're covering part of the premium out of your check.
Any more direction you need, Mr. Miller?
No, I think I've got enough to get you a budget here in the next 3 weeks, so.
Busy time for you.
It's been a busy time for Alaska. I went to that NISC member conference. I should never went. I got so buried going back. I was only gone 3 days.
Our council was asking for a motion on the budget directives.
We make a motion for the board to accept the 2016 budget directives which has been outlined for us by our CFO, Mr. Bart Miller.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
First and a second, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed and carried. Directives are in place. Thanks, Bart, for putting that together. On our agenda, we have next is the approval of the third quarter dividends that goes to the owners. It's resolution number 2015-08.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
What was my-
That dividend, yeah, it is.
It's the dividends for the
Mhm.
cities, the ownership of 3 cities.
Third quarter. 2015-08, distribution of third quarter dividends. I'll make that motion.
Motion by Representative Mr. Patterson to approve the resolution, to approve the distributed income for the third quarter.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Mr. Bradshaw seconded. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Dividends are approved for the third quarter. This is Carly's time right now. She's been waiting for this for months. Carly's gonna do some presentation to us on her employee handbook. The HR committee's looked at it. We're still, if you feel like you've got enough time to look at it, the rest of the board members probably had less than a week to look at it. If you have any questions or additions, I mean, we're all open. We're just trying to get a general layout of what's been proposed and still open to ideas and suggestions.
All I know is a lot of paper, a lot of reading.
You gotta read the red line.
And you got the red line in like 2 sets, a couple pieces. You didn't even have to see the whole thing. It's pretty scary. And
Well, okay.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, this one doesn't have, this is the draft, but is this the one you sent to us?
Yes. Yeah. That's the clean version. So
1013. This is the clean version, or this is the clean version?
well, you would have.
I've got a draft number 1. I think this is the one we worked with when we met, right?
Yes.
With the red
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
And then those
And then-
changes that were suggested were put into this.
So
And then
that's
is this the same thing, the one we got here?
This is just a summary,
the one in the packet.
Well, the front page is the summary of the
Yeah.
changes.
first 2 pages.
The one in the packet is with all of the changes.
Just
after
that
this
we
number
went
2.
through. Yeah, so because we had so many changes, that's why I kind of created that summary. It goes through section by section,
Mhm.
kind of a log of where everything went.
I like this summary, thank you.
It was, well, the red line would not been helpful at all, just for the fact that so many things had been moved around and changed in it. So I do apologize for not giving you a whole lot of time. We spent a lot of time working on it and ended up being just a longer process than we had planned on. But I do appreciate the input from the HR committee, and I did spend some time this afternoon with Bob and answered a few of his questions, and he had a couple of good changes on grammar that we kind of fixed up too on that. So, I've got some. I've got some bullet points I can toss up that are kind of, I've kind of taken the summary sheet that we had and kind of divided it then into the things that are impacting employee benefits and compensation, some of those policy changes that are a little bit more major, and then, kind of divided it into those things that we've taken out and just deleted as unnecessary, and then some things have been just changed and expanded. We've really tried to make sure that the handbook is consistent with the practice, and that our practice is consistent with the handbook, and so I think we've got a pretty good document that's a little bit more concise, and we've taken out a lot of words that were unnecessary. So I don't know how much time or what direction you want to go. I can show some things on the PowerPoint, or I can just tell them to you really quick and highlight. What we did do, though, is, a lot of the things that came out, we're creating an HR administrative manual. So the policy is in the handbook, but the procedure and how to implement it and the steps that we do kind of behind the scenes will be in our HR administrative manual. There are a lot of things in the book that didn't really pertain to the employees, as far as, like on our drug and alcohol policy, what happens when it goes to the lab and it's a split sample, and how big it is, and all that stuff.
And that
just
does not need to
didn't-
be in there.
Didn't need to be in there. It was just more.
Be aware that that's gonna happen, but how it happens.
Right, and the HR manual is something, as I've kind of identified, we've got kind of a handful of things that came out and will be in the HR manual, but the HR manual itself, I've got like a 3-page outline of things that, not necessarily from the manual, but are HR administrative things that we want to outline. So, it could be a pretty good sized manual when it's done, and that's something that we'll, bring to the board, show to the board, and keep track of what we got going on in the HR manual. Just briefly, some of the major changes, we've talked about a couple of them in the budget, as far as changes that affect employee benefits and compensation. Do you want me to put this up on the PowerPoint, or are you okay? We just kind of talk real quick, you're fine with it and stuff too. On the in lieu of, we've mentioned that the in lieu of is changing, going to the lowest cost premium amount. And also with the in lieu of, it's changing so that if employees kind of go off of the in lieu and come back, they have the need to come on our insurance because they've lost it from their spouse, but then later they go back on their spouse's plan, then they come back on at 50% instead of the 100% in lieu of. So that's where new employees are right now. Our policy is new employees coming on are paid the 50% in lieu of.
And that's
So-
in here, that's in this version.
So a current employee that switches around would also come back on that 50% as if
They'd
they
be
were
treated like a new employee. Okay.
on that in lieu of too. So we talked about the changes that we're doing to the medical insurance, but in addition to that, we've worded that so that an employee coming on may share in the cost of the premium with the company depending upon their hire date and length of service with the company. So that a new employee coming on, and the details would then be we outline that in the administrative manual, that a new employee coming on could share with the company on the premium with like an 85-15 split on the cost of that for maybe the first 5 years, and then if they stayed with the company for 5 years, then maybe that moves to a 90-10 share in that premium, and they kind of work up after being here for 10 or 15 years to the 100% premium like we have with other employees on. So they're rewarded with their length of time with the company for service for being on that. So we've kind of structured it that way in there. We did make some changes to the annual leave to consolidate that time, and it's kind of accelerated and consolidated. Our old policy was that, or our current policy is that we, after employees here for 5 years, and then in their 6th year they get another day, in their 7th year they get another day. So they've got it for 5 years. The first 5 years they get the 10 days, and then we add a day at a time, kind of like a drippy faucet until they get to a certain point, and then they're kind of stale there for a number of years before they go to the next level. And so I kind of actually looked at how it was structured vacation at the state and at the city to kind of give me an idea of how we could consolidate that a little bit. So that was just consolidated into easier to manage and administer. So that means for the employees in 2016, most employees might see that they haven't, they've moved into a different category and have gotten an extra day beyond what they expected in 2016. Some employees wouldn't see that they moved into that category until 2017. They kind of see that extra step on that. On comp time on the field employees, we've added that they can earn up to 3 additional days of comp time by converting their on-call shifts. So just for that group of employees that have on-call duties, and they can convert that one on-call shift for 6 hours of comp time. They can do that 4 times in a year. So they can actually, in addition to the comp time, they can already earn from overtime, which is 24 hours. They can earn an additional 24 hours by converting their on-call shifts to comp time. And we've also added the 3 weeks of maternity leave in there. And then we talked about the employee performance and how our employee performance is tied directly to the merit and incentives and stuff, which was a little bit different before the manual. The performance evaluation section was kind of separate from, wasn't directly tied to merit and incentives, and now that's based, like we talked about before, it's kind of that carrot. So
Remind me what this LWOP is.
that's the leave without pay.
Okay.
Yeah. That was just, so if somebody was out of vacation and sick leave and needed, and wanted to request time off without pay, that we could be able to hit them up for the benefits that we're maintaining for
During
them.
that period of time.
While they're off, whatever, safari in Africa, I don't know.
What has maternity leave been in the past? Or
None.
have we had any?
No,
Nothing.
no.
Now,
Not that we
do
implemented
men
a
get
lot of
that too?
time. No, we're baby steps. We will put it in maternity leave 3 weeks for,
Okay.
Not a
But
good
we have to
addition,
put in
because a lot of companies don't
maternity
give that
leave.
maternity leave, but sometimes also add a C-section, add another 2 weeks to it for a C-section, but.
Well, I'm just asking about men too, because.
Well, it says a pregnant employee. I was wondering about that too, Robert.
Because a lot of companies do that nowadays.
They do.
They
they
do.
do.
That's been the thing the last 10,
They do,
15
but we
years.
also, have a pretty generous, well, it's probably comparable to, I know, the other places too, but they can accrue a generous amount of sick time too. So they've got their sick
Just
leave
use their sick
that
leave.
they can do for that too. So,
And the way it's structured is that it's very close to the time period in which the person is either just about ready to have the baby, the person, the woman, or shortly after that, because it's really tied to the fact that maternity, having a baby is a medical condition that men don't share. And so it makes it legitimate to have apply only to women. And so if an issue could be raised with respect to it if we didn't have it have a medical component to it.
some of the other changes that we've done that don't directly apply to employee benefits and compensation, or we've expanded or changed the sexual harassment policy so it includes any type of harassment, not just sexual harassment, but bullying or anything else that's probably a little bit more applicable in our environment. So, the grievance procedure has been simplified. We've also removed, as part of that, the appeal board has been deleted. So with the grievance procedure, it's just a couple of steps, and then the ultimate decision, if they want to come to the board, they just come to the board, and we don't form an employee/board grievance or appeal board to cure a grievance, and so that kind of stuff. Some policies that we've kind of added in because it's been our practice, but hasn't been in there, is our little stipend for the cell phone and how that's structured, and payment of unused sick leave and vacation upon retirement. And I don't know. You want to? Okay, comment on that. Changed our IT policy so it's protecting our resources and identifies things that employees need to do and be careful about when, with company IT resources not connecting their outside laptop to the company system unless it's been scanned by the IT department first, and not opening suspicious emails, and same thing with bringing in flash drives, make sure that IT is kind of scan that. So we met with Jake and Garrett, had a lot of input on to make that IT policy meaningful and something that we could actually, implement and abide by and stuff. So I don't know if I need to go through all of them. Were there any specific things that you had, or concerns, questions that you?
Maybe I'll
Yeah,
go back to that
anything.
education system. I think the board kind of questioned that just a little earlier today.
They did, and if you look at it too, I mean, it does say that, I think the way it's worded is that the employee agrees to remain with the company for at least 1 year. And I think that's something that it's flexible right there enough, maybe that when there is approval for educational assistance, that it's, we usually kind of document it also in a letter agreement or something in there, in our personnel file of what that agreement was between the employee and the company, and maybe depending on each individual situation, if, you know, it is an MBA program, and depending on the cost, that, you know, the policy is the minimum of a year, but doesn't mean that we can't expand that to beyond, you know, in this employee's situation, because of the cost, we're asked that you stay with the company for 3 years. And
Does it read it that way as a minimum?
For at least.
Yeah,
one
For
year.
at least, so that, so in other words, for expensive like $20,000 masters, that could be adjusted through there.
I mean, we can change the wording too, but I mean, I
Well,
don't
if for
know
at
if it's
least
already
covers
exists
us,
for at
is
least
it-
a year in there, that we could, doesn't mean that we can't.
So you can have
Do
a
more.
personal agreement with that individual for the education purpose, we may say, okay, this is master, we prefer you have to stay at least 2 years, 3 years, each individual
Yeah.
case then, okay.
So it is reimbursement, so they actually have to pay, and then we
Mhm.
reimburse it
Mhm.
based on their grade, yeah.
Mhm.
So that right there is an incentive to go to school and get a good grade, because you've already paid the money out.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And if you want reimbursed, you've gotta
finish it.
finish it with a B or better, which I'm glad it says a B or better.
It's at the
Say a
bottom.
B on that, let's see that.
It does, it says for B or better.
Last page there.
On page 22,
Yeah. it does.
program is completed with a grade B or better.
I know you read the pass.
Okay. That's what a lot of our master's programs would be about.
If I bring in my grades, will you reimburse me? I'm 10 years old.
Well, see, I couldn't submit all mine, but I could get a few.
You say it's when you were 10 years old, or it's 10 years now?
I had a few comments, if it's appropriate. I didn't want to interrupt the discussion. As we were going through it, there is the whistleblower policy, and this is kind of related to the grievance procedure. Under the statute,
What section is that
That's
in?
in the
Two.
beginning.
That's right, in the beginning.
Page?
Page 4.
but it's not in there, so, I mean, we do have a whistleblower policy. The only thing I want to tell you is what's not in there is that under the whistleblower statute, there's a provision for judicial review of our decisions. So for example, if we terminated somebody and they claim they were a whistleblower, then they could sue us. And there's provision in the statute that allows for the creation of an administrative review board, an independent administrative review board, before they can go to court. We've eliminated that, and I'm not advocating that we include it, but I thought you should be aware that it's in there, or that it could be put in there. But we don't have that. The other thing is, with respect to the grievance procedure, the new statute allows us not to have,
Just to keep
not
it
follow what the
consistent with
municipal code
tracker sheet that I
provides.
had. I didn't renumber.
Under
it.
your municipal code, there's an
Two's
appeals,
gone because we put it into
appeals
other
procedure,
sections.
that includes a review board and an appeal board, and we're eliminating that. Again, I'm only telling you so that you know that when you're talking to other people, our situation will be different than what's ordinarily the case for a municipality. The other thing is, these are all just 4 independent little things. The other one is the overtime computation. The method we used for overtime computation is not the one required by FSLA. It's a little more generous, dealing with how we count holidays. Is it just holidays? I guess it's
They
just,
leave. and
yeah,
leave time.
and leave time. And then the last thing is that, and we touched on this earlier, is the retirement provisions that we have in there. We specifically have a provision now that says how much leave you can carry forward. And when an individual retires, we've provided in there that basically they get reimbursed for their all-in cost of those hours, so that includes all their benefits, and that's what's reflected in the employee handbook that you now have. The thing you ought to be aware of is, number one, is what we've done historically is we've paid that out over time, and essentially they were almost like an employee during that time, and we just paid out the number of hours that they'd accrued over the time period in which they had them. And issues come up with respect to the retirement component of that we're still working through with URS. But the concept will remain the same, which is that the employee will be repaid for the all-in costs associated with those sick leave time. Does that make sense? Okay.
No, like your opening statement talked about, this policy can be changed out notifying the employees, you know, we still make changes, handbook, doesn't affect the status. And it's very clear to me that everybody's in here's an at-will employee.
Well,
It's stated
the
there.
thing you need to be conscious of when we're talking about at-will status and we talk about things like benefits is clearly, and hopefully clearly, we've always been able to terminate people at will. And we've created certain procedures that those people can follow if they are being terminated, but the concept is you follow those procedures to ensure that a good decision's been made, not because the person has a right to a job. The other thing, though, is that separate from having a job is benefits and pay. So, for example, if I work 2 weeks, I'm entitled to be paid, even if I'm an at-will employee. Same thing with respect to benefits, including retirement benefits. So those can't be arbitrarily changed in every situation. So there's two different things at play here, and one of the things that we've built into the manual is a statement with respect to benefits that these can be changed. You don't have a vested right to certain benefits. You have a vested right to be paid. If you've accrued sick leave, you probably have a vested right to the return of those hours to you under the program that you earned them under.
You need to go talk to the school board about that one.
Talk to who?
The school board.
Oh.
I've been sitting at 120 days of sick leave, but I won't get when I retire.
Oh, no, but that's,
And I've been sitting on that for 15 years.
And that's wrong. You should get those.
The board doesn't view it as your money. Although you accrued it under their program.
but did they say they would pay it to when you accrued it?
Well, I don't know, did they, Robert? Anyway,
We've
it's
always,
You feel sick? You feel sick coming on?
my last year I might be. No, I won't, but
No, I know.
It-
you won't.
it's what pushes employees to do that.
Yeah.
well, and that,
I know one that retired that wasn't hardly there the whole last year because she used up her sick leave.
Yeah.
well, and that's part of the thing that we're always talking about as to how to